you mention backup point guard because we actually have Jaden Ivey, who I think Eric we've debated probably a couple times since you've been on this podcast
Mm-hmm.
about Jaden Ivey. And funny enough, one of the media members asked him about possibly playing backup point guard, and we're gonna play that clip.
And the point guard position doesn't have quite the depth it had last season. When you come into the year, do you see that opportunity to show what you can do as a playmaker, maybe more similar to your rookie season when the ball was in your hands more from K-Dot?
Yeah. I think I can do some special things with the ball in my hands. And, I think that I could, when Cade, doesn't have the ball, I can make plays and relieve stress off him. And I think just this year, as a whole, I just want to, make sure that I can continue to use my gifts and play how I want to play and be dominant in it and be forceful and, really just continue to get better over the course of this season.
So Eric, I'll stick with you because I know you were front and center for that question. What was kind of like your takeaway with Jaden saying that he feels more comfortable with the ball in his hands?
Definitely a little different than what he's been saying. He's talked about, his comfort playing off ball, how that's basically what he was more relying on doing at Purdue. But I mean, he did a damn good job when he was doing it. So I understand and respect, his appreciation to say that, hey, if that's what I need to do, then I need to do it. It wouldn't be a bad thing if they had to use him in that role anyway, because if he's playing as a backup point guard, again, I don't know if they would necessarily bring him off the bench, or if you just have him, like if Cade goes to the bench and Ivy is playing, at that point, he still could be looked at and viewed as your backup point guard because he's going to be taking the reps that Cade doesn't have. So I do understand and see how it can make sense because Ivy is a great passer. His speed isn't just used for him to get to the hoop. He has great vision, whether it's setting up shooters. He's very strong with his passing, and he does a great job of setting up Duren for lobs. He did it his first season and second as well. So I really like the dynamic and the possibility of that happening. The reason it didn't make sense last season because of who the person was starting ahead of him. And it was just super abrupt with how it just came about. Like everybody was really thrown off by it coming up. So I think it makes sense. It's not a bad idea. I think maybe they could use a little bit more depth at that position, maybe at this point, but it does make sense given what his skill set is. And I think it just makes him that much more dangerous instead of just being a speedster who tries to find his shot. I think being able to pass and facilitate and keeping that playmaking mentality is huge for him. And I think he'll be able to uplift that for sure.
So obviously, I haven't watched the Pistons so much last season.
Mm-hmm.
But from the tone of his voice, I don't think he really wants to play the point guard. I think that he rather stick with that the off guard position. Also, you have to think all these young guys need to prove themselves. There's something that we might not think of, but it's in their head all the time. Is that where is my next contract gonna look like? So how am I gonna show myself this season or next season? And then that's the stamp I'm gonna get once I want to go to the next contract. So it's very, very important for young players to be in the right situation where they can flourish and move on with their career. So I don't know if, like you said, but for us as a coach, obviously I think NBA coaches work the same way. Different guards have different packages. That means like there's a certain place that we play with this guard, but you don't play that play and you play these plays. Whatever fits them. So again, it's up to the coaching staff to figure out how to use them, the best way.
Yeah, I think last year, like Eric kind of mentioned it, like Killian Hayes was playing in front of Jaden Ivey. And Killian Hayes, no disrespect towards him, he never developed a jump shot in like 4 years. I don't, and I've always said it was always a confidence thing with him. A coach got in his head and he just had PTSD ever since then. He's just can't make a shot. I don't know what it is. Wishing him well in Brooklyn though. But to Jaden Ivey's point, last year, the tune, Eric, I know you could probably remember this, is like, I want to play off guard. I want to play shooting guard. I want to play next to Cade. We want to make it work. To now, his tune's a little bit different, saying like, yeah, I'm comfortable with the ball in my hands. Maybe there was a conversation that with Trajan and JB that we don't know about. Maybe we'll get more kind of indications as, preseason goes on and the season goes on. Maybe they're saying like, hey, like we need you to be that six man. You may start with Cade, but you also may, lead that second unit. And to your point, you talked about his explosiveness, his athleticism. There's a lot of different ways that you can use him. And I think one thing that I've noticed throughout this offseason is the starting lineup conversations with his name, I think when you don't put him on paper, fans, I think, kind of just automatically think that he's never going to start and he's never going to play next to Cade, which I don't really think that's going to be the case, given who the coach is and how he used Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I think, and granted, they're obviously different, positions with that backcourt and this backcourt, but I feel like it should be easier to make those two work than it did with Mitchell and Garland. They're both undersized. They're both not the best defenders. Like Cade is 6'7", 230, and then Ivy's pretty big too. Like they're kind of different in terms of skill set as well. I feel like to an extent you can kind of see some similarities between Garland and Mitchell. I think Cade and Ivy complement each other really well because of their differences. So, like, granted, I do like him kind of being open to the idea of playing as a backup because even if it is in that necessity, I don't think it's going to be extended minutes. Like, I don't think he's going to have to be playing like off the bench for like 8-9 minutes as the backup point. I think it'll maybe be a few possessions here, then he goes to the bench. Maybe they roll with, Sasser to bring it up, let Asar bring it up. They have different ways. Bobby can maybe fill in. Like, it's different things that they can try and tinker with. So I don't think they're going to have to lean too heavily on it, but I do like it's at least ingrained as a possibility for now. And again, it'll also come with the idea knowing that they're staggering instead of playing all bench lineups that would maybe feature Jaden Ivey coming. So as long as that's not happening, I'm okay with the possibility of him serving in that role.